The atmosphere surrounding the latest Old Firm clash has continued to stir strong reactions across Scottish football, and the conversation now goes far beyond what happened during the 90 minutes on the pitch. Supporters, club officials, and the wider football community have all been reflecting on the incidents that followed the final whistle, and both clubs involved have now released official responses addressing the disorder that unfolded. The difference in tone between those responses has become a major talking point among fans, with many observing that the two statements approach the situation in very different ways. What should have remained a fierce but passionate football rivalry has instead turned into a broader discussion about responsibility, respect, and the standards expected in Scottish football stadiums. From the perspective of Rangers, the message delivered by the club was direct and firm. In their official response, the club made it absolutely clear that the events following the match were unacceptable and that such behavior has no place anywhere near the game. Safety, they stressed, must always remain the top priority for everyone involved in football, whether that is supporters, players, staff members, or stadium workers. The club emphasized that thousands of fans attend matches simply to support their team with pride and passion, and those supporters should never be overshadowed by the actions of a small number of individuals who cross the line. Rangers made it clear that disorder, violence, or irresponsible conduct cannot be tolerated if the integrity of the sport is to be protected. One of the most sensitive issues highlighted in the statement involved the discovery of graffiti within the stadium referencing one of the darkest tragedies in the club's history. The memory of the 66 supporters who lost their lives in the Ibrox disaster remains deeply personal to the club and to generations of fans. For many connected to Rangers, that moment is not simply part of football history. It is a painful reminder of families who went to watch a match and never returned home. The club's response underlined that the memory of those supporters deserves dignity and respect at all times. Any attempt to mock or exploit that tragedy, they stated, goes far beyond rivalry and cannot be dismissed as banter or competitive tension between supporters. Within the Rangers statement, there was also a strong emphasis on protecting the reputation of the wider fan base. Tens of thousands of supporters filled the stadium to watch the match and to back their team in the way football supporters have done for generations. The club insisted that the behavior of a small minority should not define the entire support. According to their response, it is important that discussions about the events of the match consider the full context and avoid painting every fan with the same brush. For the club, maintaining fairness in how supporters are represented in the media and public conversation is essential, especially when the overwhelming majority attended peacefully. At the same time, Rangers did not shy away from addressing the behavior of their own supporters who crossed the line during the incident. The club made it clear that those who invaded the pitch, threw objects, or became involved in confrontations have no place representing the team. Actions like that not only put people at risk, but also place the club itself in a dangerous position when it comes to potential sanctions. Football authorities have the power to issue heavy fines, close sections of stadiums, or even deduct points if serious disorder occurs. Because of that, the club stressed that genuine supporters understand the importance of protecting the team's future and reputation rather than damaging it through reckless behavior. This is where the discussion has become more heated among supporters, particularly when comparing the response from Rangers with the message released by the other side following the same match. Many observers have pointed out that the tone of the second statement felt very different. Rather than focusing immediately on condemning the behavior that took place around the stadium, the response began by highlighting the sporting achievement of the victory and the performance shown by the players and coaching staff. Celebrating success on the pitch is of course natural in football, but for some fans the order of priorities raised questions about whether the seriousness of the surrounding incidents had been fully acknowledged. As the statement continued, it addressed the role of safety groups in investigations, suggesting that responses should be based on evidence and careful review rather than immediate condemnation. On the surface, that may sound like a reasonable approach, especially when authorities often carry out full inquiries after controversial matches. However, the lack of direct condemnation regarding the vandalism and the offensive graffiti left many people feeling frustrated. For them, certain lines should never be crossed regardless of rivalry, and mocking the loss of life connected to a football disaster is something that demands a clear and immediate rejection from anyone associated with the sport. This contrast between the two responses has quickly become the center of the conversation across Scottish football circles. Supporters from both sides have been debating what responsibility clubs hold when it comes to addressing the behavior of their fans. Some argue that leaders within the game must be strong and direct in their language whenever serious incidents occur, while others believe that investigations should come first before statements are made. What cannot be ignored, however, is that the rivalry between these clubs carries enormous emotion and history, which means that every word spoken in moments like this is examined closely by supporters and commentators alike. The Old Firm rivalry has always been intense, filled with unforgettable matches, passionate crowds, and moments that define Scottish football. Yet with that passion also comes a responsibility shared by clubs, supporters, and authorities to ensure that the competition remains fierce on the pitch, but respectful beyond it. The aftermath of this particular match has reminded everyone involved just how fragile that balance can be when emotions spill over and when actions outside the game threaten to overshadow the sport itself. And as the debate continues to unfold across stadiums, supporter groups, and football discussions throughout the country, the focus now turns to how the situation will be addressed moving forward and what lessons will be taken from everything that happened after the final whistle. As the discussion continued to unfold in the days following the match, one point kept coming back again and again among supporters and commentators across Scotland. This was never just about rivalry or about which club won the match. It became about something much deeper: how football institutions respond when the line between fierce competition and unacceptable behavior is crossed. In moments like these, words matter. The way a club addresses controversy can either calm a situation and show leadership, or it can create the feeling that certain actions are being brushed aside. That is why the contrast between the two responses has sparked such a wide debate among fans who expect the sport to protect its values as much as its traditions. For many Rangers supporters, the most disturbing aspect of the situation was not simply the disorder that followed the final whistle, but the discovery of messages written inside the stadium that referenced the tragedy which claimed the lives of 66 supporters decades ago. That disaster remains one of the darkest moments in Scottish football history, and its memory is carried by generations who see it as far more than a historical footnote. It is a symbol of loss, grief, and the importance of safety within the game. Because of that, seeing that tragedy used in a mocking or disrespectful way struck a nerve across the football community. Many fans, regardless of club allegiance, believe that certain subjects should always remain off-limits in any rivalry. The anger surrounding those messages is easy to understand when you consider what that tragedy represents to the families affected and to the club's history. Those supporters went to watch a match like thousands do every weekend, simply hoping to see their team play. Instead, their lives were lost in circumstances that changed stadium safety forever in British football. Since then, the memory of those supporters has been honored repeatedly by the club and its fan base. Memorials, commemorations, and moments of reflection have all reinforced the idea that football must never forget what happened. That is why any attempt to turn such a tragedy into a point of ridicule feels deeply offensive to many people involved in the sport. Another important element of this debate revolves around accountability. Football clubs operate as institutions that represent far more than the players on the pitch. They represent entire communities of supporters who care deeply about the image and reputation of the club they follow. When incidents occur that damage stadium property, involve offensive behavior, or create safety risks, fans often look to the leadership of their club to take a clear stand. In this situation, the expectation from many observers was that both sides would strongly reject any behavior that crossed the boundaries of respect and legality. The fact that supporters have interpreted the responses so differently shows how powerful those expectations can be. At the same time, it is also important to acknowledge that football crowds are made up of thousands of individuals, and the actions of a few do not represent the beliefs or behavior of everyone present. Most supporters attend matches to experience the excitement of the game, sing for their team, and share a sense of belonging with fellow fans. They do not arrive intending to cause damage or provoke controversy. Because of that, clubs often find themselves walking a difficult line, They must condemn unacceptable behavior while also defending the majority of their fan base who support the team in the right way week after week. Another topic that has emerged from this situation involves the issue of pitch invasions and post-match disorder. In many stadiums across Britain, entering the playing field without permission is considered a serious offense. The rule exists primarily for safety reasons, protecting both supporters and players from situations that could quickly become dangerous. When large numbers of people rush onto the pitch, the risk of injury or confrontation rises dramatically. That is why stewards and police officers are trained to react quickly when it happens. Maintaining control of the stadium environment is essential to ensuring that football remains a safe space for everyone attending. The authorities within Scottish football are now expected to review everything that occurred around the match, gathering evidence, and speaking to those involved before reaching any conclusions. Investigations like this are not unusual when major incidents happen in high-profile games, especially in fixtures with as much history and intensity as this one. Officials will examine security footage, stadium reports, and witness accounts to determine exactly what took place and whether disciplinary action is required. Depending on the findings, sanctions could range from financial penalties to restrictions placed on future matches if serious breaches are confirmed. Beyond the official processes, there is also a broader conversation happening among supporters themselves. Rivalries like this are part of what makes football so compelling, especially in Scotland where history and identity are closely tied to the clubs people support. Passion will always exist, and intense matches will always produce emotional reactions. But many fans believe that the strength of a rivalry should be measured by the atmosphere in the stands and the drama on the pitch, not by incidents that involve vandalism, offensive messages, or confrontations that overshadow the sport. In the coming weeks, attention will gradually shift back to the football itself as both clubs continue their campaigns. Yet the conversations sparked by this match will likely linger for some time. Moments like these often serve as reminders that football carries enormous influence within communities, and that influence comes with responsibilities. Clubs, supporters, and authorities all play a role in shaping the environment around the game. How they respond when challenges arise helps determine whether the sport moves forward in a positive direction or repeats the same controversies again in the future. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The talk around Ibrox and far beyond it has grown louder by the hour, with whispers spreading that Rangers may have been on the wrong end of one of the most controversial nights Scottish football has seen in years. Supporters leaving the stadium spoke of disbelief, anger, and a sense that something had gone badly wrong on the pitch, and perhaps beyond it. What should have been remembered purely as a fierce contest instead turned into a storm of debate. The flashpoint, according to those inside the ground, came through a series of baffling VAR interventions that seemed to ignite the fury of players, staff, and supporters alike. Decisions were reviewed, delays stretched on, and when the calls finally came, they left Rangers players gesturing in disbelief and the home crowd roaring their protest. Rumors circulating after the match suggest the dressing room atmosphere was nothing short of explosive. Several Rangers players reportedly left the pitch battered and bruised after a physical encounter that, many claim, was allowed to spiral far beyond the limits of fair play. Challenges flew in, tempers rose, and yet the expected disciplinary action never seemed to arrive. Fans have been quick to label the episode a historic robbery, a phrase repeated across pubs, taxis, and late-night phone-ins throughout Glasgow. While no official complaint has been confirmed, speculation is mounting that the club could be preparing to demand explanations from the authorities. The question being asked in every corner of the city is simple. How could so many contentious moments pass without clear resolution? Others closer to the game are urging caution, reminding supporters that emotions run high after such heated encounters. Yet, even some neutral observers have quietly admitted that the sequence of decisions will likely be replayed and analyzed for weeks to come. For Rangers, the lingering feeling among fans is not merely frustration but suspicion. Whether the controversy fades or grows into something larger may depend on what comes next. For now, the night lives on in heated conversations and swirling rumors. a match that, many insist, will not be forgotten anytime soon. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.